How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with Alex and Ryan. Been a minute, Ryan, since we've had a duo episode. Ryan was at the Pinstripe Pride event this past weekend. I was doing a little traveling with my baby for the first time. A flight with a 9-month-old is like the World Series for the Yankees. Freddie Freeman hitting dingers off of you every freaking day. It's not fun, but I'll tell you what, we survive, we push forward, and hopefully we get better. And the Yankees, I think, got better in left field this year, just promoting Jason Dominguez and letting Alex Verdugo go. Now, Verdugo's still a free agent. Actually, a couple players in the Yankees are still free agents. Same thing with Anthony Rizzo. I think they got better at a couple spots. And Jason's upside I want to talk about. Before we talk about Jason, I want to talk about Tim Hill, bringing him back on a $2.8 million deal, and then a club option for 2026 at about $3 million. So I think that's very solid value. Tim Hill's a really interesting pitcher. He lets up a lot of contact, but it's weak contact. He doesn't strike out many batters. I think it's like 4 batters per 9, which is one of the worst in baseball. But his ground ball percentage is fantastic. He's a specialist against left-handed batters, and we saw that during the postseason. So I think he's going to play a pretty important role for the Yankees. Obviously, he's a fan favorite now. We like him a lot. So we're going to break down kind of what this deal means for us. We needed a left-handed bullpen arm. We didn't have one prior to signing Hill to this kind of small extension. But Ryan, how are you feeling today, and how are you feeling about Tim Hill?
I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with Tim Hill being back, especially on this contract. When we talked about bringing in a reliever, how can the Yankees kind of supplement their bullpen? One of the biggest concerns I had was that whatever they paid Tim Hill would significantly affect their payroll, and as a result, could limit their ability to get an infielder. But this contract has little to no bearing on their payroll. It's a $2.85 million salary for the 2025 season. There's a club option with a I think it's a $3 million option or somewhere around that range. But the really nice thing about this is that, number one, it's a club option for that 2026 year. If Tim Hill isn't very good, it's only a $300,000 buyout. So Alex, that means that the Yankees will only be charged $300,000 towards the luxury tax next season if Tim Hill isn't productive or he gets hurt or something of the sort that caused the Yankees to say he is not worth $3 million towards a luxury tax. But last year, Tim Hill proved that he was worth way more than $2.85 million. He was epic for the Yankees down the stretch. He made some key adjustments with the organization. One of the big ones being dropping his arm angle. With the Chicago White Sox, he had around a negative 18-degree arm angle. With the New York Yankees, that dropped to negative 23.5. And as a result, the effectiveness of his sinker got a lot better, and the Stuff Plus numbers agree with this. So if you got Stuff Plus when he was with the White Sox, he had a 104 Stuff Plus and a 109 Stuff Plus in a sinker. With the Yankees, that goes up to a 115 Stuff Plus overall and a 122 Stuff Plus with the sinker. His pitching plus got better because his command of his sinker got better. And overall, Alex, I mean, his ability to just generate soft contact, to avoid barrels, to keep the ball on the ground, and to get outs is extremely, extremely vital to this bullpen. They needed a left-hand reliever. They finally got one with Tim Hill, and I think the Yankee bullpen is more than complete now. They've got enough weapons to go out and dominate. They've got their left-handed specialist. They've got a variety of weapons in Devin Williams, Fernando Cruz, Luke Weaver, Ian Hamilton, Jake Cousins, Jonathan Loaizaga, so on and so forth. So overall, Alex, I feel really, really, really good about this signing. And I think that this is going to be a very productive signing for the team. I think this bullpen is going to be one of the best, if not the best, in baseball. They put themselves in a position where now the only thing we're really looking at is the infield for them to solve and round out that roster.
Yeah, that's the last piece to the puzzle here. And we don't know what the Yankees will do with the infield. That third base position is still wide open for the taking. We know Brian Cashman says something along the lines of, we're waiting for prices to drop. That doesn't mean that they're going to be looking for an Alex Bregman. It probably means more like a Brendan Rodgers or more like a Jose Iglesias. Like, that's more of the depth the Yankees are probably going to be targeting on the free agent market with guys like Jorge Polanco off the board, and others that have been signed in recent days. But wanted to talk a little bit about Jason Dominguez in this episode and what we think his upside is here. Now, we've talked about him quite a few times, Ryan, this offseason, but I want to talk about the difference between what Jason offers and what Alex Verdugo presents to this Yankee outfield. Now, Verdugo was a solid defensive left fielder. Wasn't anything crazy, but he was a solid defensive piece. Now, manager Aaron Boone wants him playing left field. He wants Jason playing consistent at a specific spot. He doesn't want him at center, moving him over to left. He's like, let's struggle in one spot until he gets the hang of it. And they think that his athletic profile, there's upside there. Defensively, he will get better. He will be working there. all year, and I do believe that right now there's a lot of optimism that he can improve defensively, and I think that there's reasonable justification for that thought process, because it's not like he's slow, it's not like he's not an athlete, it's not like he doesn't have an arm. He's got all the tangible traits to be a quality defensive piece. So I don't know, why we shouldn't be optimistic that he can improve. Now, offensively, he is a substantially better player in terms of projections than Alex Verdugo. Now, Verdugo had a bad offensive year last year, obviously, but we're talking about a player in Jason Dominguez that was really, really good in the minors last year in AAA. Played 44 games, hit 7 homers with 25 RBI, stole 15 bags, had a 121 WRC plus, hit 309 with a 368 OBP, and a 480 slugging rate. So his projections this year, Ryan, you're looking at 136 games. They have him hitting 18 homers. This is a steamer projections with 64 RBIs. But I think in Yankee Stadium with that short right porch, predominantly right-handed pitching across the league, I'm pretty optimistic that he can blow past that 18 home run number. I think that if he gets that long chain glove, if he starts to get hot, this is based on his averages, his projections, but we know one thing about Jason Dominguez, Ryan. The guy hits the crap out of the baseball, and when he gets hot, he is freaking electric. And I really, really hope that he doesn't suffer another injury, because if he doesn't, he's going to blow away these projections, in my opinion, right? They have him at a 112 WRC plus, which actually is pretty damn solid for a rookie, I would say. But I think that he could push 20 plus homers this year. And I know 30 is optimistic. That's a home run about, if you played a 162 game season, that's about a home run every 5 games. If he plays 130 games, that's about a home run every 4 games. I don't think that's crazy to consider a home run every 4 games. What do you think the upside is here? Do you think Jason could smash 30 homers? I know that would be like, holy crap, we have a superstar on our hands if he manages to pull that off. But 25 plus doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility to me by any means.
I mean, no, I would say out of the realm of possibility, it means that it's unlikely, it's unfathomable. And I don't think it's unfathomable to believe that Jason Dominguez could hit 25 home runs this year. Now, I'm going to be a little more conservative. I think 20 is all right, that's a good home run number for him. Like, if he can do that, 2 thumbs up. I'm a little more focused on, like, all right, how does the OBP look like? How does the walk rate look like? How do the strikeout rates look like? But as you mentioned, his ability to do damage on contact and hit the ball really hard is something that not a lot of prospects can match up with. And because not a lot of prospects can match up with that, it leads me to believe that this is a guy who's going to be pretty good in 2025. And he has the ability to make contact at a pretty high clip. He makes good swing decisions. He pulls the ball in the air. As you mentioned, short right porch, left-handed hitter, or when he's hitting from the left-handed side, that'll be productive for him. And then the last thing I'd like to point out is the base running value. Can the Yankees get good base running value from Jason Dominguez? Because if they can, and they have in, the minor league level at the very least, this is going to be a player who is very dynamic, multifaceted, and gives another look to this offense. The Yankees have been really, 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 really bad on the bases for the last 2 years. I think it's really hampered their ability to score runs. And as we talked about multiple times since losing Juan Soto, if the Yankees want to be better than they were last year, or be as good as they were last year, it's not going to come with being better, having a higher OPS. They're not going to have a higher OPS than last year's team unless a lot goes right for them. What they could have, though, is, let's say, last year, I'm going to pull up last year's OPS for the Yankees. I know they finished in the top 3 behind the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. Yes. They had a 761 OPS last year. If that number is 750 this year, which is where the Phillies and the Orioles were, which is 4th, 5th in the league, if they have a 750 OPS, and instead of being, again, one of the worst base running team in baseball last year, let me correct myself, in terms of Fangraphs base running runs and StatCast's base running runs, if they're the 10th best base running team and their OPS goes down by 11 points, they might actually be a better offense as a whole. They may actually score more runs doing that. They may be a better team doing that. If you look at defensively, they were a pretty good defensive team last year. I know I'm going to get pushback on that, but the New York Yankees were, top 2 in fielding run value. They were 15th, I think, in defensive runs saved. I think they were top 10 in outs above average. That's pretty good. But can they be like top 5 or top 3 in all of those metrics? Can they be across the board like one of, if the not best defensive team in the American League or baseball? If they can do that, again, that's going to be another way where you look at the Yankees and go, okay, they're a little bit better than last year's team. Then you look at the pitching staff. The pitching staff's a big part of this. And this is where Jason Dominguez ties in defense and pitching staff wise, because Jason Dominguez, as you mentioned, if he can settle into left field well, play the position well, Doesn't have to be an elite defender out there, just league average, right around. Bellinger's a really good defensive center fielder. Judge is a really good defensive right fielder. You look left to right, that could be a really strong defensive outfield. Then you look at third base. Currently, you don't know who's there right now. Jazz playing second if they don't do anything. So third base, internal options cannot hit, but at least they can play defense. I don't want an internal option. They have to go external. Shortstop, Volpe, great defender. Jazz second, great defender. Goldschmidt first, good defender. Wells, catcher, great defender. You add that final piece, that third base piece, or second base. I'm fine moving Jazz back to third, but, either or. And that player can play some defense and hit a little bit for you. Again, I could see this team going 750 OPS, top 10 in base running runs, and then a top 3 defensive team. And then the pitching staff should be one of the best in the league as well. That right there, that might be a better team than last year's team. That might be. I can't say for certain that they're going to do all those things, but if they do, they should be a better team than last year's team. And so Alex, as you mentioned, getting him acclimated in one position, preferably left field, keeps Bellinger in center. He's a better defender there. You acclimate you build your roster around being a good defensive team, having a little more speed from Jason, having more depth or power depth, 1 through 9. You have some guys who can hit for pop. Your lineup is going to definitely reap the benefits, and your team should win 95 plus games doing that.
I agree. I think based on projections, the Yankees kind of overachieved in a lot of areas last year. And if they do the same, if they run back just general overachieving or even hitting the projections, Max Fried is a better number 2 than Carlos Rodon. And that's not even an argument, right? Like, they got better in the rotation. Clark Schmidt's healthy. He obviously missed a large chunk of last year. Nestor Cortez was obviously played a lot, pitched a lot of innings, but he was volatile towards the end, but he served a good purpose. Luis Gil coming off a really, really excellent rookie campaign. If he kind of just manages to be controlled chaos in the strike zone, he's going to be even better than he was last year. It comes down to injury luck, obviously, at the end of the day. But Cody Bellinger, yeah, he's not Juan Soto. He's a better defender than Juan Soto. But I don't think that, here's what I think, Ryan, that the projection models are using Cody Bellinger's 2024 season to project his 2025 season, right? I think that he's going to have a way better campaign than he did in 2024. And the reason I believe that, the stadium, and Yankee Stadium in general, benefits him greatly. He wants to be a Yankee. And they're putting him in a position where he's going to have a big role in this lineup and in this team in general. I think that he's going to have a really nice bounce back season. I would not be surprised if he walked away with, I don't know, a 130 WRC plus. I'd be happy with that. You know what I mean? I think that's not crazy to consider. I think he was at 109 last year, if I'm not mistaken, in that range. So I think he could be 20% better this year, which would be a stupendous amount of value for that cost. So, looking at Jason Dominguez, Verdugo came in at 84 WRC plus, something like that. Jason Dominguez at 112 is a 30% improvement over Alex Verdugo. 30%. That is a stupid amount of value. Paul Goldschmidt being 100 WRC plus is an 18%, 16% improvement over Anthony Rizzo. You know what I mean? Or DJ LeMay, whoever the hell they had playing first base every day. That is an insanely different value. I just think, even having Oswald, look, Gleyber Torres ended up with 104, I believe, WRC plus. So he was slightly above average. That last missing piece, they're going to make a move at some point, whether it be now or during the trade deadline over the summer. They can survive until then, in my opinion. Obviously, we'd like to have someone sooner, but I just don't think they're going to make a premature move when they can probably wait and get somebody on an expiring contract. They could probably get, let's say the Padres have a bad year, they could probably get Arias for pennies on the dollar, if at the trade deadline over the summer, if they just wait, right? That's a possibility. Of course, you don't know what teams are going to be in the race, what teams won't be in the race, but they can get an expiring player probably for pennies on the dollar if they just wait, which I think is what Cashman's thinking. We don't need to rush into this. We're already, with the team we have right now, we're arguably the best team in the American League. I think that's pretty much a general consensus. We are the best team in the AL right now, barring injury or inconsistency in some way that's unexpected. But with that being the case, if we are the best team in the AL and the last piece we need is a infielder, we have patience on our side. We have the ability to say, okay, we can wait and make the right move when the right time, kind of comes. And that could be over the summer. It could be before spring training, during spring training, injuries happen. Maybe we have a pitcher to leverage. Who knows? There's a variety of ways that Cashman can go about solving this spot, but I'm not concerned about it right now because I do believe the Yankees find themselves in an advantageous position that they have patience on their side because of the AL. If we were in the NL, Ryan, I'd be like, we need a freaking infielder now. We need somebody right now. The pressure would be on, but because we're not in the NL, we do have a little bit of leverage. We do have a little bit of comfort saying we can win with this team right now and then get an infielder at the last second to help us across the finish line in late July, early August, September, then into the playoffs. So, what is your thought on that right now? I think based on projections, the Yankees got better at a number of key spots, but I don't see why this team can't be the best team in the AL and then make another move to push them over the hump at the deadline. For a team that's struggling, they can steal a nice piece like we got Jazz Chisholm last year. Somebody will shake free. Somebody will shake loose. If the Cardinals are absolutely dog water, why can't you go knock the doors on Brendan Donovan at that point? When they have little leverage and they know, okay, well, we're horrible, and Donovan's probably getting upset because he thinks we're going to be good this year, and they don't want to pay him. At that point, maybe you have a little bit more of incentive to go and try to be more aggressive in that market. What do you think about that?
So a couple of things. Number one, I think that ultimately I do want an infielder before the start of the season. The reason I want one really badly is because, I want this team to be you want this team to be meaningfully better than other teams in the American League. You don't want to just be like better. You want to be considerably better. That's my opinion on it. And then I look at where they stand as an offense, and that infielder just adds an extra piece. I actually would go out as far as to say, as you mentioned, prices are dropping. I have no problem with the Yankees waiting for prices to drop, but that has to wait. That wait should stop before opening day. They need someone who can take DJ LeMahieu's spot as a starting infielder, because the way that it seems is that LeMahieu may end up starting, or at least get a good amount of playing time if they don't add an infielder, and I don't really want that. What I will say, too, is let's say you trade for a Willie Castro. Who is he a world beater? No. Is he better than what we have internally? Yeah. And is he going to add something to your offense? Yeah. Because he's a good base runner, can hit at Yankee Stadium, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. But I would like to see them add a second infielder. Not someone expensive, not not like saying add a guy making $10 million a year. No, nothing like that. But can you bring in someone on a split deal? Maybe a Brendan Rodgers or Kike Hernandez becomes a split deal guy. And if they're a split deal guy, can they come in and battle with DJ LeMahieu for a spot? Because here's the thing, Alex. We're hearing Boone say third base battle. And I do think Cabrera could win the third base battle if they just went with what they had internally. But, is Peraza really fighting for a job? Is there a job for him to fight for? Are the Yankees going to cut DJ LeMahieu and pay $15 million for him to play somewhere else? Probably not play somewhere else, just be in free agency. Be a free agent or sign a minor league deal somewhere. I don't know. Point is, $50 million. Are they going to pay him $50 million this year, next year to not be on their team for Oswald Peraza? I'll put the odds of that at 0. But the odds of them doing it for a player like a Kike Hernandez or Brendan Rodgers, depending on how these guys look in spring training, in my opinion, is infinitely higher. Because if you bring and the reason I mentioned a guy, I specifically like Brendan Rodgers a little more than Kike Hernandez, because the role Rodgers can play is he can play against lefties. And here's what I have essentially guaranteed for my offense. It's that at third base, let's say I have a Willie Castro. Willie Castro is really good against right-handed pitching. He's up and down against lefties. Not to say that he can't be a full-time starter. He was a full-time starter last year and was pretty good in that role for the Twins. But more so that, you can always shuffle your, you can always shuffle your lineup around. You can always optimize your lineup. If you look at how he did, and I just clicked off the splits tab, against right-handed pitching this year, he had a 113 WRC plus. The year before, it was a 120. If you get, let's kind of aggregate that 7-point difference. Let's say it's 117. 117 is a WRC plus he puts up against righties this year. If you have that production, and then you bring in Brendan Rodgers, who has a career 120 WRC plus against lefties, it means against righties, I'm going to have that, say, 115 WRC plus. And against lefties, I may have a 120 WRC plus. Let's get a little more conservative. Let's say 110. Let's say 110 for both, honestly. I'll take that from third base. That against righties, I got a guy who can give me a 110. And against lefties, I've got a guy who can give me a 110. And for my bench, that gives me more depth and more options. Cabrera can play in a pinch if somebody goes down, and he can play all over the infield. Brendan Rodgers can play second, short, or third. If somebody goes down, I can play him around the infield. Jazz can move over to third base to accommodate someone who maybe fits second base a little better. That's also on the table. Willie Castro can play third, short, second. He can play the outfield, but for lack of better terms, I don't know if I want him playing there. I guess he could in a pinch, which is fine, but I would prefer not to have that. You have Grisham who can come off the bench. You can move Bellinger to first. Like, it gives you so much maneuverability with your lineup. It gives you so much versatility. Could JC Escarra win the backup job as the catcher? Because if he does, he also can play around the diamond. He can play a little third, a little first, a little corner outfield. So my point is, Alex, I want to have a roster where if guys go down, I can move people around and make things happen to build a pretty solid offense or still win ball games. I'm not particularly sure DJ LeMahieu does anything for you in terms of versatility. Peraza might, because he can play some short and play some second, but he's just not very valuable offensively. I just throw this out there to say, I think the Yankees could improve their infield dramatically by spending like $7 million total. And if you could do that, that's fine. And another thing I'd like to throw out here, the Cubs are still in on Bregman. And if the Cubs get Bregman, Horner might be available. So again, like, as you mentioned, Alex, there's no reason to say, screw it, push all our chips and sign Jose Iglesias today. Like, there's no need to do that. You don't have to do that today. I would like to see where Bregman goes before you make that final decision. But I would like them to make that final decision before the start of before opening day. I'd like them to get an infielder in, even if it's like John Bird, they do it like day of. I'd like them to do something before opening day.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If the Cubs get Bregman, that's actually best case scenario for us, because then Nico Horner definitely becomes a possibility. Right now, I think they got a decent team. They can, I mean, as long as they have Kyle Tucker, man, they made that move to compete. They didn't make that move to back down. I know the Tigers are looking at Bregman as well. We'll see. Like, maybe there is a world where Cashman, when he said we're waiting for prices to come down, maybe there is a world where he's talking about Bregman, but it's gonna require Hal Steinbrenner to go into territory he doesn't necessarily want to go into over that $301 million luxury tax threshold, and he already is at 305. But Stroman's going to get traded at some point. Like, we know this to be true. As long, I know Aaron Boone's saying, oh, well, we like Stroman. He could be our most important pitcher in 20. You want to know why he's going to be the most important pitcher in 2025? Because they're going to trade him and get below the luxury tax. That's why he's the most important financially. So, allow them to be a little bit more creative in other ways. I don't think they're going to drop a bag on Bregman unless they're like, you know what, screw it, let's push. Like, let's go for this chip. I think a trade candidate's more likely in the 10 million range. Like you said, 7 to 10 million range probably is more likely, but I don't know. I definitely think Bregman's a very low probability.
I would like to add one thing as well in regards to Stroman, because this is tied to Tim Hill a little bit. The only way the Yankees can legally construct their pitching staff, because you can only have 13 pitchers, you can't have more on your 26-man roster. They have to open the season with Jake Cousins in AAA, or Fernando Cruz in AAA, or Ian Hamilton in AAA. They're not doing either of that. There's a 0% chance the Yankees let either of those three pitchers start their season in AAA. Brubacher doesn't have options. Mark Leiter Jr. doesn't have options. Tim Hill doesn't have options. I don't have to mention Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, who don't have options. They're not getting sent down because the Yankees would have to carry 6 starters unless they option Luis Gil or option Clark Schmidt, which, Alex, unless those two guys give up a run, unless they give up 30 runs and get 0 outs in spring training, if they option either two pitcher for Marcus Stroman, there's going to be a riot. Like, we're going to what Nico Harrison's getting right now in the media will look like nothing compared to what Yankee fans will do if Marcus Stroman makes the starting 5 without any injuries. Granted, injuries are a big reason why the Yankees probably are wondering about maybe they shouldn't trade Stroman, or maybe wondering, all right, at what point are we paying too much to just have a guy play for another team? But yeah, just want to point out right now that, and you have to factor in Loaizaga coming back. They like Clayton Beater. Those are all guys who can't join the roster without cutting dudes. So I think it's going to be super interesting to see how the Yankees construct their roster, because they think they're going to have to move someone. Maybe they move a reliever. Maybe they move a Mark Leiter Jr. I know they went to arbitration with him. They beat him in arbitration. They saved a grand total of $500,000. So sure, that's just arbitration system's so stupid. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to point out that they have a little bit of a logjam in the pitching staff now, and I do wonder if they leverage one of those pitchers to get at bat. Again, do the Cubs need bullpen help? Could they use a Ian Hamilton? We know they like a Will Warren. That could throwing in another prospect in that pool, maybe get something going. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Just throwing ideas out there.
Yeah, and I think those are good ideas because at some point the Yankees probably will leverage from their strengths, and that is their bullpen. They have a lot of really, really good arms, especially under control, like a Jay Cousins. They have lots of control over Will Warren and Hamilton too. So yeah, I do think that at some point that could be something they look to execute. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts down below. I know we talked about Jason for a little bit, talked about Tim Hill, talked about additions, like kind of a little bit of a roundabout roundtable discussion here on a variety of different topics. But we have spring training just around the bend. I think we're going to start diving into some position battles at some point. There's not really that many position battles except for at third base. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, obviously, the cemented starters and kind of how we foresee the alignment happening here. But always happy to get your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe. As always, drop a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify if you are so kind. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.